Hello everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV. My name is Ben Kelly. This is the Liverpool Development Watch. It's good to see all of your smiling faces here on Valentine's Day. I imagine the vast majority of you watching this on Valentine's Day have just taken a quick break from Pornhub, perhaps to recover. And even if that is the case, I very much thank you for choosing my show and the Redmen TV to do that. But anyway, we'll get on with the loans. We're going to start with Daniel Sturridge, who obviously is on loan at West Brom. As some of you may have heard, he picked up an injury on Monday away at Chelsea. Big game for him. Got the start, got the nod from Alan Pardew to start the game, and after 3 minutes he picked up an injury and he was off the pitch. He had one touch of the ball. I think I, like many people, sympathise again with Daniel Sturridge. It's another injury setback for him and I feel really, really sorry for him. Not as sorry as I feel for myself though, as I had him in my fantasy football team and I was relying on him to pick up some points, but that's just a smaller issue, I suppose. Pardew has initially indicated that it's a pull of his hamstring, not a tear. And of course, as always, we just say get well soon, Dan. Hopefully, a pull means that he's not out for as long as it would be. Obviously, he's only on loan there until the end of the season. It would be helpful if he wasn't out for 3 months in true Daniel Sturridge style. But we'll have to wait and see. As more news comes of it, I will report it on these shows. Hopefully, we'll know a little bit more next week. And so we'll move on to happier news, which concerns Harry Wilson. He scored his first ever first-team senior goal for Hull City. They beat Notts Forest 2-0 away from home. It was a simple tap-in finish at the back post, but he showed determination under pressure from defenders to get there and get the goal. Really, really good striker's instinct from him. Earlier in the half, he also won a penalty that Hull missed, but it was some really good, tricky, intelligent play in the box to win the foul. Definitely was a Stonewall penalty, so good for him. Good for him to get scoring goals. Hopefully that means he'll get more starts and more time on the pitch over the coming weeks. Lars Mane has had a bad start to life at Anderlecht in Belgium as he's basically been told to get less fat. He's been put on a fitness regime and is yet to play for the side. Now, it's interesting because reading this story last night and putting this agenda together, it reminded me of when he first signed for Liverpool, which will have been 2014. Obviously, the year Luis Suarez left and we made just a spam load of signings to try and replace him. I read an article in the Mirror, it was a column, I can't remember who wrote it now, one of the columnists in there, basically wrote that signing from Benfica, we signed him for 22 million or whatever it was. Lars Mane was basically going to be a world-class star. And that's what this guy was saying. He was basically going to say that, like many Liverpool players have done in the past, he's going to use Liverpool as a stopgap between Benfica and Barcelona's and Real Madrid's of the world, and we were basically going to end up selling him onto those type of clubs. And instead, here we are, nearly 4 years later, and a random Belgian club are telling him to lose weight. And I just think that just sums up Brendan Rodgers' entire reign as Liverpool manager. So much promise, yet a little bit of a letdown, which has been the case with Lars Mane. So I'll keep you updated over the next few weeks, see if he does in fact become less fat and does in fact get on the pitch for Anderlecht. We'll move on though to Corey Whelan, who also got his first senior goal for Yeovil Town in a 3-2 win over Fleetwood in the Checker Trade Trophy. He's been getting a little bit of time in the pitch, but he's still yet to start, and he has actually been left out of the squad in the last couple of games, so hopefully he will be able to kick on from getting that goal last week and get some more time on the pitch. Obviously, he's only young, so baby steps in this case. Ryan Kent and Ovie Ejaria both took part in a thrilling game at Ashton Gate. Ryan Kent and Ovie Ejaria both took part in a thrilling game at Ashton Gate on Saturday, which saw Sunderland come from 3-0 down to draw 3-3 against Bristol City. Ryan Kent was absolutely fantastic. He was subbed off very, very late. Ovie Ejaria likewise had a good game, was subbed off with about 7 minutes to go. Neither of them scored, but Ryan Kent did get an assist. John Flanagan is still waiting for his first minutes on the pitch in a Bolton shirt. Obviously, life is very, very tough for him at the moment with the whole court case that's recently concluded and the fact that he has to live in Bolton. He's featuring on the bench in a 1-1 draw versus Fulham on Saturday, but last night Bolton played Cardiff, losing 2-0, and he wasn't in the matchday squad at all. The man who was in that squad last night for Cardiff was Marco Grujic, who's been playing regularly, as we all know, for the Welsh side. He had his best game in a Cardiff shirt last night. They are playing a little bit deeper, but he's starting to get used to that role, and actually Neil Warnock's had some comments to say about him recently. Speaking to Wales Online, he said he's catching up and getting better. It's been difficult for him to be thrown straight in, with his second game being versus Man City. I think it's toughened him up being with us, and I think that's improved his game. In every game he's stuttered at times, but he's recomposed himself, and I think he's learning about what we want him to do. And that's all we want. All we want is for Marco Grujic to learn how to play those midfield roles, learn how to play several midfield roles on the pitch, and hopefully come back a more versatile and well-rounded player from this loan, which is exactly that kind of direction they seem to be going in, so that's really promising for us. Divock Origi started on the bench for Wolfsburg as they lost 3-1 away to Werder Bremen. He was subbed on at 2-1 with basically the intent of being that he would make an impact on the game, perhaps salvage a point for Wolfsburg, but just 3 minutes later they conceded a third and ultimately lost the game. Well done, Divock. Naby Keita, on the other hand, scored for RB Leipzig last week on Friday as they beat Augsburg 2-0 at home. They will be involved in the Europa League tomorrow. They've got a tough draw in the round of 32 as they face Napoli. Hopefully, they will make it through and we can see RB Leipzig progress in this competition. It'd be nice to see Naby Keita perhaps win a trophy for this club before he comes and joins us. In 138 days, by the way, the Keita countdown is back. I forgot to say it last week. It was on my agenda, it was on my list of things to say, and I just completely forgot to talk about it. I will bring you updates on how he does in the Europa League in next week's show. And so we'll move on to the youth sides. Both the under-23s and the under-18s aren't really in the greatest vein of form at the moment. The under-23s have lost the previous 2 games. First of all, in the league versus Spurs. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of this result and why the game was being talked about on Twitter. It's basically because Adam Lallana decided to strangle a youth player for very little reason. I'm sure we all saw the clip of him going apeshit. It was Spurs midfielder George Marsh. Now, he'd had a few heady challenges throughout the game. He'd been kicked to all sorts during it, and I think it got to this point where it was quite a tough aerial duel from this fella, and he just snapped and lost it with this guy and strangled him. He basically walked down the tunnel before the red card had even been shown. They actually finished the game with 9 men as George Johnson was also double booked and sent off. They lost 1-0. But they are still top of the league by a point, even though they've lost a couple of games. They've lost 3 in the last 5 now in the league. And that means their lead at the top has been cut by Arsenal, although they play Leicester, who are 3rd, next. So hopefully some points will be dropped there and we can remain with a nice little cushion at the top of Premier League too. On the bright side, United are bottom of the league, so every cloud. They then lost their Premier League Cup game versus Bristol last night. This means that their qualification for the knockout stages has been made less comfortable. They basically have to beat Stoke now in the final game of the group to ensure qualification. They were top of the group going into the game last night on goal difference, but losing it has meant they slipped to 2nd. A selection of players from Steven Gerrard's under-18 side were promoted last night into the under-23 squad, one of which being Edvard Tagstad, who many of you may have heard of, many of you may not have. So this is the guy I'm going to talk about this week on the prospect report that's been missing for the last couple of weeks, but hey-ho, it's here now. Basically, Edvard Tagstad, known as Eddie to his teammates and to Gerrard himself, is a 17-year-old Norwegian midfielder. He grew up in the small town of Frosta, which is obviously in Norway, and has a small population of just over 2,500 people. He's a very, very small guy. Now, I couldn't actually find his accurate height on the internet anywhere, but he must be not much bigger than 5 foot, seriously. He's smaller than me, and I'm a relatively small guy. He had trials at Everton and Man United before choosing to join Liverpool when he was 14. He's got 2 goals, 14 assists in total, 19 appearances this season. Steven Gerrard loves him. He's claiming he's a bit like James Milner. He's a very versatile midfielder who can play basically anywhere in midfield. He works hard, he's no nonsense, and he doesn't complain, which is very much like the James Milner that we all know and love. Speaking of Gerrard's side, they lost 3-1 in their mini derby with Everton on Saturday morning. They were 3-0 down after half an hour, mainly because of a couple of goalkeeping errors from Kamil Grabara, who I talked about a few weeks ago on this show. The first one was a corner that was floated in, probably should save the header. The second one is another one that you really should be saving. And the third one was a really bad pass given away from Grabara that basically goes to an Everton midfielder. They break up the field and score again, and before they knew it, they were 3-0 down. Even though they had the overall better balance of play, they really couldn't put away the chances, and then the scoreline didn't really reflect how the game had gone. But unfortunately, that's football. You know, if you don't take your chances, you are going to be punished, especially in big games against your local rivals. And anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this week's Development Watch. Thank you very much for watching. As always, follow me on Twitter at bkelly776. Give the channel a subscribe, give me a thumb up, put a comment down below, and I will see you next week for another episode of the Development Watch. Bye-bye.